...2011 and 2012 have been tough years on plants and trees across Oklahoma, and we have Craig McKinley here to tell us about some of the damage that's been occurring with trees here in Oklahoma.
Well, we have had a lot of problems. The last couple of years I've received numerous calls, trees dying in the forest as well as in yards. One of the things that we've noticed, of course, is that once the trees die of drought, then we've got secondary problems. We've had some disease problems, we've had some insect problems. The difficulty there, of course, is those are secondary to the drought, and once the tree has started to die or is under severe stress, there's really not much we can do about it at that point in time. So what we suggest to folks is first give them tender loving care if you can, particularly yard trees.
Right.
If the tree begins to show signs of death, and it does occur over time, it doesn't occur instantly, go ahead and remove the tree out so it's not a danger to anyone. In most cases, and if you like the wood, firewood can be used. We have talked in other places about not using pine so much. There are a couple of problems with pines, particularly exotics. In the Austrian and Scotch pine, we've had some nematode damage.
Okay. Well, and you've also have this oak tree over here that's obviously had a rough life over here, and it's looks like it has a little bit of damage on the bark there too. What are we looking at?
This particular tree looks like what I would classify as a canker disease. It is a fungal disease. It occurs when trees undergo stress, particularly drought stress. The symptoms, as you can see here, is the bark sloughs off, and then there are those black splotches that occur under the bark. The tree is dead. The first sign of this would have not been the bark sloughing, but would have been a sparse crown. But shortly after that, the bark becomes loose, comes off. A lot of times you can just spot it by the bark laying around the base of the tree.
What are some signs that homeowners can look at and say, well, that tree's under stress?
Well, I think the first thing you see is a change in the leaves or a change in the needles. They will generally turn more yellow. We term that chlorotic, but it just means that they're turning yellow for lack of chlorophyll production. After that, they will turn brown. A lot of times leaves will not be produced, particularly in the spring of the year if the tree has been under stress the year before. So as the crown does not look as full or as green or as complete as it did in previous years, that's the first sign. If we have this nematode damage, which I mentioned in pines, those trees will die in the course of 3 to 4 weeks. They turn brown and that's it. Drought affects the whole tree. It does not affect just the top branches or the bottom branches. So all of the leaves or all of the needles generally will show some symptoms.
Is there anything you can do for a tree with drought damage?
Well, the first thing, of course, is to give it some water before it gets that far, if you knew what to do. I have seen people will do a little bit of what I would call corrective pruning or in anticipation pruning, and that would be to remove no more than 30% of the limbs and foliage, but that just leaves less surface area for transpiration, which should result in less water need by the tree. But other than that, there's just not really much we can do.
Okay, so water as much as you can, but it may or may not help.
That's right, and unfortunately with trees, it's an old story, but the leaves are the last to get the message.
That's true.
And so by the time the tree shows its leaves to be turning brown or falling off, the tree is probably pretty well gone.
Okay, and as far as pruning goes, is there a better time of year to do that?
Most people recommend sometime late fall through early spring. That's probably the better time, although if in fact you think the tree's under drought stress, it's certainly acceptable to go ahead and prune it at that time when you first see it.
Now, if you take off a limb, should you take it all the way back to the trunk so it can heal over, or does it matter?
Most people would recommend that you take it back to probably 2 inches of the main stem. And that allows a smaller area that has to be healed as opposed to cutting at the stem itself.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Well, Craig, thank you very much, and thanks for letting us come out and talk with you about it.